3 Reasons Why Park Rangers Are Terrified of the Smoky Mountains. Written by Sensitive Bull. So grab your coffee, sit back, and enjoy the show. I was a park ranger at the national park that holds the Smoky Mountains, and I'm choosing your channel to help me expose the truth about what really goes down at these parks. Firstly, Bigfoot is real, and he is much larger and more dangerous than you could ever imagine. And I saw him on a routine patrol route in 2015. Secondly, feral people are real. People go missing without a trace and turn into inbred wild specimens who eat humans and animals. Lastly, Dogman is real. I watched him attack one of the campers and run away with their dog in their mouth. I'll start with the Bigfoot story first. It was September 2015, seasonably warm and humid. I woke up bright and early to the sound of my horrific alarm per usual. I got up and got dressed before heading out of the door to start my day at work. I entered my car and drove the hour needed to reach work, blissfully unaware of the horrific sighting I would encounter just a few hours later. I finally made it to work and exited my vehicle. I went inside of the ranger's office and was greeted with unexpected commotion from all of my coworkers. I remember just standing by the door being extremely confused by all of the commotion, until one of my coworkers came over to me and had the decency to explain to me what the hell was going on. He began to explain how the park has been experiencing pretty bad earthquakes all morning, and that it was only in this park. No one knew where it was coming from. He also explained that many people heard bizarre grunts and roaring. I was still in a state of shock, but I was now intrigued by what was going on. I wondered if the earthquakes were powerful enough to hurt anybody. I began to look around the ranger's office and saw that a few people were bleeding, and desks and items were knocked over and all over the floor, and that's when the other earthquake hit. I heard a loud and jolting thud from outside, which caused the whole office to shake, a few light bulbs hanging to fall and shatter everywhere, and a few people to fall. I was luckily okay because I had been holding onto the door handle. Suddenly, another extremely loud thud happened, twice as jarring as the last one. It caused me to jolt forward and slam my face into the ground. I groaned in pain as I got up. Suddenly, the commotion got much louder and more furious. I could hear people trying to vote for an unlucky ranger to go outside and investigate what was causing this when I raised my hand. Everyone went silent and looked at me for a few seconds before people started thanking me for my bravery. Some cautioned me not to go because of the danger, but I did anyway. I opened the door and exited the office, feeling peace from finally getting away from that commotion. I could have never expected what I was going to find when I turned the corner. I turned the corner and was met with an incredibly huge white foot that looked like it belonged to a wild animal. It was roughly the same size as the ranger's office. I stared in horror and awe and muttered curse words under my breath. I looked up to reveal a 100-feet-tall Bigfoot. I had heard of Bigfoot before, but I never believed in silly stories like that, and I certainly did not think that Bigfoot was supposed to be this ginormous, 8 feet at the most from what I had read. My awe and horror turned to pure horror when I saw Bigfoot begin to lift his foot and hover it on top of the ranger's office. I realized what he was about to do, and I felt completely powerless. I thought about sacrificing myself by screaming at him, but I didn't have the courage. Right as he was about to drop the hammer, a bizarre noise from another animal was made somewhere in the forest. For some reason, this caught his attention. He quickly turned around and began to run in that direction, clearing the forest as he went, and also causing another earthquake. I was lifted into the air and smacked down on the harsh dirt as I fell. I quickly got up and rushed inside to explain what I had just seen to everyone. I went back inside and saw that everyone was now laying on the ground, groaning in pain, assumedly from the earthquake that had just happened. I started yelling to everyone that it was Bigfoot and that they needed to come outside as quickly as possible to see him before he got away. And that's when I realized I needed to do the same. I ran outside, not caring if anyone else came anymore. I could still feel the vibrations of his feet running through the forest, so I ran on his path until I could see him running clearly. I pulled out my cell phone and began to record. Once when I was satisfied with my video, I stopped recording and ran back inside. I showed everyone the video, and they were all dumbfounded. I tried to post the video on all of my social media, but I was met with an error message every single time. They didn't want me to post it. Suddenly, my boss stood up and announced to everyone that they would be fired if they said any word about this sighting to anyone, and that we all needed to stay silent about it. I was very concerned and confused about this, so I asked him why. I was met with an angry response of telling me to shut up and just do as I was told, or that I would be in a world of trouble. I backed down and just agreed. I reluctantly agreed and kept my mouth shut because I wanted to keep the job, but now that I'm fired, I do not care. I will expose the truth no matter what happens to me. Now, on to the next story. This was a few years after the first occurrence, but I definitely had not forgotten about it. Every day I came into work fearful that I would run into that horrific beast once again. But luckily, I somehow never did. I woke up early that morning, a little too early actually. I confused my shift with someone else's and set an alarm that was too early. I was too awake to go back to sleep, so I decided to scroll through my cell phone. I opened the news app and scrolled for a bit until I saw a news article about the park I worked at. Feral people live in the woods of this national park. I clicked on the title but was suddenly met with an error message. Sorry, this article has been taken down by the Federal Bureau of Investigation, FBI. I was very confused as to why an article like this would be taken down. It seemed obvious that they were trying to cover something up. I scrolled some more and saw a few articles that had similar titles, and the same exact error message popped up when I clicked on all of them. I remembered that I had to go to work in an hour and suddenly felt anxious about that fact. Those articles had really gotten to my head, and I did have some post-traumatic stress after that Bigfoot incident. Or should I say, ginormous foot incident. I decided that maybe there was a logical reason why these articles were getting taken down, such as false information. Yes, that's what I landed on in order to calm myself down. I told myself that the FBI had investigated these articles and could deem them false. I could trust the FBI after all anyways, right? After another hour, I got out of bed, got dressed, and was on my way to work as usual. I watched the beautiful sunrise as I drove to work, trying to focus on it instead of the possibility of feral people roaming the forest. I finally made it to work and was instantly greeted by bizarre grunting sounds when I first parked my car. I sighed in frustration because I knew that that simple sound alone was going to give me anxiety for the rest of the day. I got out of my car quickly, practically jumping out of it to avoid any feral people who might have been hiding under my vehicle. Just to calm my nerves, I looked under my car and saw nothing. I took a deep breath of relief and walked into the ranger's office. Everything had returned to fairly normal since the incident, except there were a lot of new hires since a lot of people quit after that one day in 2015. I sat down at my desk and saw what work I had assigned for the day. It looked like I had a routine trash pickup on the East Trail in 20 minutes. Routine trash pickups were always my least favorite things to do, but I decided to not let it ruin my day. I decided I would get the job done a bit early, so I got up and headed outside. It was about a 10-minute drive to the East Trail, so I walked over to my car, checked underneath it one more time, and got inside. I put the keys in the ignition and was then on my way to the East Trail. For some odd reason, the East Trail always had the least amount of trash compared to any of the other trails, even though it is the most popular trail, but it wasn't like I was complaining about that. I arrived at the East Trail and got out of my vehicle. I did feel a bit anxious going on the trail because of how many people had gone missing on it, but I took some deep breaths and got out my trash bag. I began to pick up trash when I suddenly began to hear very bizarre grunting noises coming from the trees and bushes. My heart rate instantly skyrocketed and I froze. I began to frantically look around me, and that's when I saw it. An incredibly disfigured human who was clearly feral, staring into my soul with hungry eyes from atop a tree. I was not sure what to do. I didn't know anything about these people, whether they could run fast or not, killed or not, etc. I had only heard their name in a few news articles that morning. I decided that I would drop everything and run as fast as I could. I was not that far from my vehicle, and that was all I had to do. I turned around and booked it, hearing the creature do the exact same thing instantly after me, and eventually I could feel it right behind me. I tried to pick up my pace, but I was absolutely no match for this creature. The creature attempted to knock me down to the ground, but I withheld and threw the creature off of me, far into the forest with all the force I could. The creature groaned in pain for a few seconds on the forest floor, and I knew that this was my chance to escape. I made it back to my vehicle and quickly got inside. I drove all the way back to the ranger's office, reported the incident to my boss. And unfortunately, he did the exact same thing as last time. He screamed at me that if I were to tell anyone about this incident, that I would be in a world of trouble, possibly even dead. I was very taken aback when he threatened my life. Now to the most recent occurrence. This was only a few months after the feral people incident in 2019, so my guard was still heavily up. I woke up in the late afternoon because I was working the night shift that night. I actually preferred the night shift. I was a night owl myself, and if it meant I got to sleep in until the late afternoon, I was happy. But I should not have been happy considering what was going to go down that day. Even though months had passed since the feral people incident, and years since the Bigfoot incident, I couldn't stop thinking about both of those occurrences, every single day. I had had nightmares about both of the incidents the night before, so I woke up and instantly thought about them. I decided to brush it off and look forward to my day of work, when I retrospect I should have just called in sick. I got dressed and headed out the door, not even bothering to shower because I had stopped caring what my coworkers thought of me a long time ago. I stepped out of the door and walked to my car before getting in and starting my journey to work. After around an hour, I made it to work and parked my car. I got out and walked to the ranger's office before going inside. My coworker instantly started explaining to me that many people were complaining about their dogs going missing while they were camping. I was confused and asked if this had occurred earlier today or more recently. He explained that he started getting reports just an hour ago, and that he had gotten around 10. I told him that I would go investigate the matter. I got out of the ranger's office and decided that I would do a patrol check of all of the camping areas and speak to some of the affected campers. After a 15-minute walk to the eastern camping area, I began questioning people about what had happened. It seemed that all of their stories were the same. They heard a weird noise, turned around, and when they turned back around, their dog had vanished. I wondered if there was a coyote or something that was just extra hungry, but I quickly wondered why I would even think of anything logically in an absurd place like this. I exited the camping area and walked another 15 minutes to the western camping area. I asked people about what happened, and they were all confused and said that their dog was with them, or that they had not brought a dog. I felt defeated and was about to leave the area when I heard a bizarre noise coming from behind me. I wanted to turn around, but I remembered that all of the people I had spoken to said they heard a bizarre noise, and once they were done turning around to see where the noise had come from, their dog was gone. This made me not turn around and stare right in front of me to see what I would see. It happened almost instantly after the noise. A 7-feet-tall humanoid creature with a dog's face came sneaking out of the bushes. I will never get the absolutely horrific feeling in my stomach when it locked eyes with me, put its finger over its mouth as to shush me, and then proceed to quickly run to one of the tents, snatch one, maul it to death ferociously, and run away happily with the deceased dog in its mouth. I stood in place for a few minutes in complete shock, trying my absolute best to process what in the world had just happened. I wasn't sure what to do moving forward. I didn't know whether I should report the incident or just go on my merry way. I knew that the boss would just angrily tell me to never bring it up again, so I was very conflicted. I decided that I would follow where Dogman had gone off to. I knew that it was an incredibly risky decision, but I did not care at that point. I instantly began to run as fast as I possibly could in the direction where he ran off to in the woods, and eventually my foot hit something and I tripped over it and fell face first. I groaned in pain and got up, looked behind me, only to see that I had tripped over the dead dog's skeleton. It appeared that the dogman had devoured it quickly. I looked behind me and saw Dogman menacingly staring at me, as if telling me to go away. I yelled after him instead. I asked him who he was and to show himself, but shockingly he turned and ran away. I felt defeated and left the forest. I didn't want to tell my boss, so I decided that I was going to quit right then and there. I stopped by the office, turned in my uniform and all of my equipment, and drove home. Those are 3 stories of why I will never be a park ranger again. Hey family, a very big thank you to Sensitive Bull for allowing me to narrate such an awesome story. Be sure to check out their Reddit profile for more of their awesome works. If you would like to support us and make a donation, I'd be very much appreciative. I do have PayPal and a Buy Me a Coffee account. Be sure to also check out our merch store. There are plenty of items and designs to choose from. If you enjoyed this video, then why not check out the next one? Here, on the right-hand side. You can also follow us. All my socials and all my other links are contained within the Linktree link below. Take care, everyone, and I hope you all have a wonderful and peaceful night. And don't forget, where fear is, happiness is not.